Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for this Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. 9:07 a.m. My name is Ty Mentzer, Vice Chair of the Board. Commissioner Gary Edwards is present, along with County Manager Mira Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. Commissioner McGee will be joining us in just a moment. For public and virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. And first up this morning is Homeless Strategies Update. I see Keely Marino in the upper right corner. Now the upper left corner.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. I don't have much to report today that would be different from last week. We continue moving forward with our state and local partners around the right-of-way initiative. They will be cleaning that one big structure on the Pacific interchange that's pretty noticeable at this point. I believe by the end of this week, there still are a remaining number of 2 or 3 people still remaining at those camps. They are making plans to start addressing the downtown core, so around Henderson Boulevard, and they're starting that process. Other than that, we do anticipate there being a closure of some camps this next week, a large one again behind the bottling company on Phones Road. We have Desmond Drive. That camp will be cleared on the 15th of September. We have Ensign Road that will be phased into the Quid Street Village property over this month, and then potentially Percival Creek as well. So we have a lot of movement going on in the encampments right now. And yet the resources that are provided by the state for right-of-way initiative are only for those living on the right-of-ways. So other than that, that's where we're at. That's all I've got to report today.
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner McGee?
No questions.
Keely, I have a question. The camps that are being cleared that are not part of the right of way, like what, is there a what's the thinking there? Like what's, are you privy to the conversations, I guess Olympia is kind of leading those, or what is exactly?
No, they are not. Desmond Drive is being led by City of Lacey and Department of Enterprise Services. So they are working with the Olympic Health and Recovery Services, I believe, to help try to find folks alternate places to be. The larger camp is private property. It's privately owned, and that property owner has received large funds, and I am not aware of how they are moving forward with that move. I know that the outreach community is working with the individuals living in those encampments, trying to figure out where they might be able to go. And then Percival Creek is up in the air, potentially being cleared as early as next week. And that is the railroad's decision. So the City of Olympia is negotiating with them to extend that time period so that not all of this is happening at one time. So it's a smattering of property owners and efforts that are occurring depending on the camp.
I didn't catch that. The what decision? Railroad?
Railroad.
The railroad is scheduled to do some maintenance on the rails, which happens to have a number of individuals living near that. So they're asking for the city to move everybody, but the city is asking for a little bit of time.
Got it. Okay, thank you, Keely. Pass to you, Madam Chair.
County Manager.
I'd just like to provide an update on the conversation yesterday that we had with Department of Commerce, the state. It is related to the DOT's right-of-way sweeps they're planning to do. The conversation focused mainly on the purchase of a hotel here in Thurston County. I think it was a very productive meeting. We did have the opportunity to understand the decision-making process as to why they like to have the purchase negotiate directly with a provider. And it's because of the source of money they are utilizing. There was 2 funding sources, $45 million set aside for the right-of-way initiative, but also $60 million, as they call it, a capital program. Under the $60 million, where the money is going to come from to purchase the hotel, their policy is to contract directly with the provider, the one who's going to be owning that facility. So in this case, the provider is the one who's going to be on the facility. And since the county is not going to own the facility anyways, I think that probably I better understood what that is. But one of the key elements it was what opportunity do we have to be part of the operations of the hotel. And the money to operate the hotel is going to be coming to the county. And the county is going to be the one who is going to be having an agreement with the provider as to how the hotel will be operated. Also, through the conversations with the state yesterday, they open up the door to have a memorandum of understanding between Lacey, the county, and the Department of Commerce to start defining what the operations of this new facility will be. So in gist, I believe it was a great conversation for me to understand the decision behind the direct contract with the provider for the purchase of the facility, which is related to the color of the money going to be utilized to do so. But also it was very, I believe, encouraging for me, and I can probably attest to the fact for the city of Lacey as well. Scott Spence was with me in the meeting, as well as Tom and Rick from Lacey. They opened up the door to either have the MOU sign three-party with the state, the city, and the county again. And that will also open up an opportunity to include some language in the contract they may have at the time they purchase the hotel with the provider. That is my report at that time. Tom, you'd like to add on? Are you there? Yeah. If you'd like to add anything else to that conversation.
Thank you. Tom Webster, Public Health and Social Services. No, I don't have anything to add, but we will kind of as next steps engage with Housing Trust Fund staff to ensure that we're at the table to include important priorities and requirements for the region in the contract moving forward. So we do have that opportunity to ensure that this facility operates in accordance with our regional priorities. So.
Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Mentor?
So you're speaking kind of vaguely when you say operating in accordance with our regional priorities. I mean, the specific concern that I was hearing was that we would lose like slots in these facilities to folks from outside the county, or is that what you're talking about? We're going to be able to work in an MOU?
Absolutely on point, because that was what the concerns, making sure that this facility serves Thurston County residents. And there was, I believe, a strong agreement, and that will be the instrument in which we ensure this will not be a regional facility, but rather be a facility for Thurston County residents in need.
And when you say the instrument, we're talking about an MOU with Lacey, Olympia, and the state?
Yeah. No Olympia, Lacey,
I'm sorry, not Olympia,
County, and the state.
That's what I meant. And then the, okay, county, state, and that, but the entity that's receiving this motel, are they part of all that?
Well, they should be, because the operating money is coming to the county, and we need to have an agreement with the operator. And that's how we're gonna be encompassing all that. But it's important to have that MOU right off the bat for the provider to understand what the conditions will be. If that makes sense.
And I would just add that the state said that they would incorporate that MOU into the contract with the provider by reference. So it would be incorporated into the contract between Commerce and the provider, that MOU.
So as a follow-up to Commissioner Mentor's question, you know, I'm glad to hear that this meeting happened and that they're willing to sign that MOU with us, right, with a lot of our concerns outlined there. I just don't, I guess I'm missing the piece where, how would this impact the provider? I mean, the provider can go ahead and contract with other counties and do that. Like, is there going to be something specific? And then I also am wondering, long-term, right? Because we're gonna operate this hotel for 5 years, I'm imagining that's kind of what they were saying beforehand. What's gonna happen after those 5 years? I mean, was there a discussion on this?
Yeah, it was, and as part of the MOU, maybe included in the contract, we're gonna highlight the intent of this the use of the long-term use of this facility, which eventually will be somewhat of affordable housing, so which will require some remodel. And I believe that is probably what we discussed yesterday, because the money for the remodel is not available at this point. But certainly in that contract with the provider will be clearly outlined the intent of the long-term use of this facility. Also, the discussion evolved whether this facility could be for the long-term use in perpetuity. And they don't have that ability. I think it's for a 40-year type of time frame, and that seems to be adequate in any type of funding they will receive related to infrastructure improvements.
Go ahead, Commissioner Everett.
You mentioned that there's no money available for the remodel. Where is the intended money to come from on a remodel?
Well, at this point, the state has options to apply for the remodel. So in this case, there will not be a financial obligation to the county or the cities, if that is perhaps what you're asking.
Okay. And a follow-up to that, has there been criteria set in place yet that will select potential residents at this hotel? Have we got a plan in place? We've got a concept in place, but I don't know that we have a plan in place, and who's gonna get to, I guess, select portions of that plan to make sure that we're not, somebody moves here from New York City, they get to the front of the list. I'm looking to help Thurston County residents that have been here the longest first. So if they're a long-term resident that's fallen on hard times for whatever reason, I want them, my preference is to help them first, rather than bring some outsider in that's been here for a month or a year. I want the longer resident of Thurston County to receive the benefit first. So, I mean, I know that's a discussion we might have as a board, but I'm just curious, has there been anything in place like that? Who's gonna be developing that criteria as who we might help?
Who is going to be developing the criteria is going to be between Lacey, the state, and the county.
Okay.
And the objective is to provide resources to the houseless individuals in Thurston County.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
your
the
objective. My objective is
No,
the
that is-
houseless individuals that have been here the longest.
So,
Okay.
and I'm just stating
Okay.
at this point, and whether the board wants to approve that MOU or not, that's a legislative action that you need to
More to
consider
come,
later on.
sounds like.
My next question in regards to this is, what's going to, I mean, I'm still missing that piece about the long term, and you mentioned a little bit about it, and you know, because this, I'm guessing, since the contract's gonna be directly with the provider, this is no longer going to be an asset that we're even gonna consider, right? The county having, because it's gonna be directly for the provider. And is there a possibility that this, you know, provider in search of funds to be able to keep up with the maintenance and operations of this hotel contracts with other counties in the future?
We discussed that, and again, the purpose and intent was to provide services to the houseless individuals in Thurston County, because that was specifically one of my concerns that I highlighted. What is preventing the provider to make this facility, a resource to the region? Pierce County and Thurston County. The response from the state, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, was that is the purpose of the MOU, to put some parameters, and those will be included in the contract with the provider.
But that's just for,
Yes.
that's for right now, not for, after the money from the state is gone and, our operations are done, like, that's my question. What's gonna happen during that period?
Yeah, and so the way this can work is there will be restrictive covenants on the property, as Ramiro indicated, for 40 years. And so there will be, if the provider violates the terms of those restrictive covenants, which includes kind of operating as affordable housing with those conditions that we can include, the provider will be required to pay these funds back. So those requirements will not be only in a contract, but some of those will be in restrictive covenants that are leaned on the property, and will go with the property even if the developer, the owner sold the property. Those will remain on this property for 40 years.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
No.
More to come, I guess. Thank you. Next is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of August 30th, 2022. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Approval of the Tuesday, August 30th agenda and approval of the board meeting minutes from August 23rd, 2022. Any comments on that?
No.
We have two presentations. First one is from the Sheriff's Office, and it's Sheriff's Office K-9 retirement.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. You heard from Under Sheriff Brady last week. There's a presentation that I personally looking forward to see, and the Sheriff's Office is going to be presenting to you and bringing K-9 officers Jax and Dexter, as they will see their retirement day coming up. That will give the board the opportunity to say thank you for their service. And also certainly thank you for the Sheriff's Office to continue to provide those services to the community with the K-9 units. And also later in your agenda, you have a couple of actions for you to consider, giving the two dogs to the sheriff deputies who are currently handling those two. And also this afternoon, I believe they're coming the two replacement K-9 officers, I believe. Chief Dehaene is here to answer any questions.
Chief, any additional comments you'd like to provide, sir?
No, good morning, Commissioners and County Managers. No, I think Under Sheriff Brady outlined it, but no, we're excited to bring the dogs over this afternoon and let them say their official goodbyes. So, unless you have any questions for me.
Questions, Commissioner Evans?
No questions, thank you.
Questions?
No, good.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, from Emergency Services, proclamation for National Preparedness Month.
Yeah, for your consideration this afternoon, Commissioners. Let me see my notes. Sorry. Is a proclamation related to the U.S. Department of House, the Homeland Security and FEMA are sponsoring National Preparedness Month in September 2022. This is a national effort held each September to encourage everyone to take steps to prepare for emergencies and disasters in their home, business, school, and community. And this afternoon will give you the opportunity to proclaim this and bring awareness of preparedness to the residents of Thurston County. Ben is here to answer any questions at this point.
Ben, any additional comments?
No additional comments from my comments made last week. I will have a couple different items that the commissioners had asked about regarding what activities are going on throughout the month, which I'll relay during the commissioners meeting. Just for your awareness, for this meeting, there'll be a 2022 flood bulletin that will be sent out to everybody that's in the floodplains or set up through TC Alert. That will be coming out this month, as well as daily updates in coordination with Emergency Services Facebook page, as well as updates to our own Thurston County Emergency Management website to make sure that we're providing all those residents of Thurston County with the preparedness material that they would need.
Thanks. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer?
Nope.
Okay. Next is an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
I believe you may probably receive some public testimony related to the Hopkins Ditch District, as well as you may probably receive public testimony related to the redistricting efforts that Commissioner Mejia and the chair of the Port Commission are leading. So you may receive some testimony on that, perhaps.
Is the ditch district about what they're doing to expand, or is it about their long-standing request for us to give them money back?
No, I believe you may have comments related to some of the residents, not necessarily from the
the
Hopkins district.
potential.
We just received another letter this morning from Heather Bridges urging the commissioners to take action on the recommendations that she provided in the letter we went through last week.
To suspend the operations
Yeah,
of the
suspend the operations or refer this to the boundary review board.
But-
So I have forwarded that to, I provided my perspective last week related to the boundary review board. Under normal circumstances, the board has the option to exercise or invoke jurisdiction when a proposal is coming before you. At this point, I am not aware that the Hopkins Ditch District has proposed an annexation of these properties. So I have asked the question to our attorneys to look at what the possibilities, what the options the board has related to the BRB. In the suspension of the operations of the ditch district, I believe you're tracking on that, the options that you have. And depending on that conversation, my suggestion at that point last week for the board was to take no action at this point. And based on the information that we received from Heather Bridges, I believe the public hearing has yet extended one more time to September 2nd, because there's a lot of testimony on it.
Commissioner Edwards?
And where are we at in hearing from legal about all of the options, ramifications, or whatever from our legal counsel?
That's what I just stated. I just referred that to the attorneys this morning to give me a perspective, what options the board has to refer to this matter to the boundary review board without having a formal request for annexation.
Well, I guess I'm looking even beyond the recommendation for the boundary review board. Just in general, what are we stuck with here? It sounds like there's some RCWs that are conflicting RCWs, and they're older ones. And I'd like to hear from legal counsel about any questions that we might have, at least get answers from legal.
Yeah, I can certainly
At some
accommodate
point.
that at some point,
When it's
Commissioner,
gonna
but
be.
as you may recall, 2 years ago, legal reviewed their request from Hopkins Session. We properly responded to that letter. And I also follow up with another response letter this July, which it was also reviewed by legal. So the request from the Hopkins Ditch District for the county to pay back stormwater fees for the last 7 years, that is not something the county can entertain that is legal. And that was the basis in which my response was to their request. The result of that, they filed a public records, which we're in the process of responding to the public records. But if the board or commissioner wants to have additional information from your legal counsel related to any questions you have on the Hopkins Ditch District, I'll entertain that and have the attorneys come and have a conversation with you.
That's good, that's all. I want them up to speed and available should something come up, and have them be able to at least give us some guidance, that's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Munson?
The question framed by the county manager is exactly the question that I want to hear the answer to, and depending on that answer, I mean, be willing to take some action, depending on what the legal ins and outs are. I would just piggybacking kind of on what Commissioner Edwards said, time is a little bit of the essence here, given how fast these folks are moving with their effort to expand the district. I don't know what happens after. September 2nd is just a continuation of
A continuation.
the 9 hours, so probably they've taken so far. But I think my impression is that once they complete that process, they're gonna try to take the action that they need to take.
Like, I will encourage you to read the email that you received.
The new
from-
one.
The new one from Heather Bridges. And I believe she's outlining some of the steps they may take if the ditch district continues to pursue this matter.
Well, the residents may take independent action.
Yeah, so I will encourage you again to read that email.
Yep.
I would like, once that answers, I would like to have an executive session because
Yes,
I do have a lot of questions. Like Commissioner Edwards mentioned, there's kind of conflicting information and, we were told you really can't do anything, you should, and then this letter from Heather Burgess and it's like you have all these options and it was like, wait, we didn't know that. And so I just want to have that discussion and not have 3 different discussions with our attorneys. I just want when all of us are hearing the same thing.
I'm with the boss.
Commissioner Edwards, you're going to say?
No, you covered it for me, thank you.
So as soon as we get a response, we'll have a executive session.
Okay, and then I don't know, but we might receive comments in regards, I don't know if the commissioner saw, the Sheriff's Association president released kind of his public comment that he made here to news sources, and so there's been a lot of discussion about that, so I'd received comments about public safety before, I'm wondering if they're just gonna come trickling down as well, so.
Yeah, the op-ed, the Olympian published yesterday was a little bit old because the Jolt published the same op-ed maybe 3 weeks ago.
Before we had that meeting.
Before, I think right after, before the meeting. So, and then I believe he provided a testimony on a Tuesday afternoon. I believe Robin followed up the following week on their responses.
So did Ty. Ty wrote him I thought it was a very thoughtful email.
Yeah, I mean, the frustration I had with the op-ed was that as was made clear in the couple of meetings where we addressed this issue with Chief Toma, who's the chief of the jail, the issue that is concerning to Mr. Lehman is not anything that Sheriff Snaza did, or that the county commissioners did, or the Board of Health did, or the Dr. Ophthalmologist did. It's the structure, it's our dorm-style structure of our jail combined with a pandemic. It's not a structure that allows itself to easily manage a pandemic. And so when he says we're the only county doing X, that's because we're the only county with this structure. I mean, he says it's because of decisions that were made by decision makers. That's not accurate. It's because of decisions that had to be made based on what the jail structure we have with the federal and state parameters that we have to follow. And so that was left out of the op-ed for whatever reason, and that was frustrating because I think that's the essence of what the public should be understanding. There's nothing Sheriff Snaza could do other than prioritize public safety bookings, which I think he's done pretty well, and given the constraints.
conditions, yeah.
But to say that anybody's made a decision that created that situation is not true. So I felt like that was a big missing piece there.
Commissioner Edwards.
I guess taking all that into consideration, why and who has the authority to change it? Why can't we just go back to the way we were doing business, but you've kind of laid that out, that we've got a different layout in our jail. But at what point do we get back to normal? And who's got the authority to say, okay, we're back to normal? Is it Dr. A who's got that authority? Is it CDC who's got that
Well,
authority?
I can, if I may, I can probably answer that question, Commissioner. This issue was discussed at the jail resources team meeting 2 weeks ago. And I believe Commissioner Mejia attended that meeting and was part of that conversation as well. And you as well. And the result of that, we had a follow-up meeting with Dr. A occurred, I believe, last week. And some of us, which we really discussed it.
Under Sheriff and Chief Toma as well.
Chief Toma. And Dr. Adamalik's direction does not deviate from the CDC or the State Department of Health. It's just the conditions and the guidance provided by the CDC and the State Department of Health related to jails is really what Dr. Adamalik is following. She's not stepping outside of that direction. What makes it difficult is the dorm setting that we have at the jail. When we're dealing with isolation and we had outbreaks at the jail, that guidance continued to be a public health guidance and puts restrictions because you cannot put individuals in the dorm that was intended to do more than one. So and that is the key, and I believe that's what Commissioner Minster is alluded to, the fact that the configuration of the jail and the operations of the jail puts yet another issue related to the public health mandates. But I know there were new CDC guidelines, and Dr. Adamalik is in the process of reassessing that as well and see if there's providing additional guidance.
Okay, how about on the review as to the emergency declaration possibly that maybe the governor put in place or CDC put something in place? When technically is that due to expire so that we could at least tell a concerned citizen we're still operating under, I don't know, the governor's emergency declaration or CDC recommendations? I don't know. When I get asked, I really don't have a very good answer in that regard. That's kind of what I'm looking for, that, you know, Dr. A is just following X or she's imposing what she feels is appropriate. I don't know.
So what is coming up is going to be a briefing to the board related specifically to this matter. And I was just having a conversation with Megan this morning. Perhaps we need to expedite that briefing. The Sheriff's Office will be present, Department of Public Health will be present, and that will really give the opportunity for the board to ask those questions.
Okay.
I mean, I just want to be clear, 75% of what was in that op-ed was good. Like, let the public know we've got this issue, you know, that's good information. It was just that little piece about why, and that I thought was missing a chunk, an important chunk.
That's kind of what I'm looking for, is
Yeah.
that answer as
Yeah.
well.
So we might receive public comment on that just because there was a lot of concerns and, you know, people sometimes they focused on one part of the thing and not the whole letter as a whole, so.
Yeah, and then, are we still on, citizen issues, follow-ups from the
The
county
opportunity
manager?
for, yeah. You have one,
I do.
yeah, go ahead.
Anything new on the Tenino sex offender 140th activity?
I'm gonna have an executive session on next week. No, the 13th of September. That's when the legal review will be done, so, and at that point is we'll be providing you, at least the attorneys will provide the board with the options and next steps. September 13th.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay. Consent items, we have a couple of them. The first one is from the auditor's office, approval of the voucher list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For your consideration is for you to approve the voucher list for the August 1st, 2022 for a combined amount of $2,844,238.36. This item is in your consent agenda because there are no atrium expenditures.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Questions, Commissioner Mensah? Okay. Item 3B and 3C from the Commissioner's Office, Create Fund 2022 Debt Holding. And item C, Create Fund, Go Bonds 2022.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Those two items are new, added to the agenda for this afternoon for your consideration. We did not review those items last week, but there is a sense of urgency, and Robin Campbell will walk you through the details of that. This past week, we had an interview with financial individuals from investors, where we just walked through the county, and that's the first step in for them to consider issuing the bond to Thurston County.
So the meeting that we had last week was with S&P, aka Standard & Poor's, and they are our bond raters. So we anticipate getting our bond rating this Friday. And I'm very much looking forward to what they said on that. And then these two funds are mandated by law. We are required to have a debt holding fund where the proceeds of the bond are deposited until they're used for their approved purposes. And then the second fund, the GO bonds, that fund, and by the way, GO stands for general obligation. That fund is required to make payments on the bond. So we'll, when the timing comes, when it's time to make a payment, we transfer money in from the fund that's being used for the payment, in this case REIT 1, and then the payments are made. But these are both legally required when we issue debt.
Questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Edwards?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
So is the Debt Create Fund 2022, is that a number that just happens to coincide with the year we're in right now, 2022?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the practice in Thurston County has been to name these funds, including the year that we issued the debt.
Oh, okay. So we can keep track of things easier maybe or something.
It does
Okay.
include that.
My curiosity is, I have objected to the councilmatic process of creating this funding source. I wanted to do let's go to the voters and the democratic process, I was outvoted on that, so that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it's the way it is. Okay, so now, and my concern has been that I think REIT funding to pay the bonds is only coming from the unincorporated home sales. And, you know, it's my feeling that all the taxpayers in Thurston County should be contributing towards the operation of the courthouse proper. I guess irregardless of where it's located, it's part of the whole law, justice, and courthouse scheme. So is that money that is going to be raised with the councilmatic vote in the unincorporated area of Thurston County the funding source that is going to go into both of these items?
No.
Okay, so
It
what
will
is?
only go into item C at the time that it's time to make payments on the bonds. The money going into item B, that fund, those are the proceeds of the bond sale. So when the county sells the bonds and closes the sale, and someone sends us, they're gonna do a wire transfer of $50 million, that will be deposited into the debt holding fund. And then when it's time to make the payments, which are generally on December 1st and June 1st of every year, then I'll transfer the roughly, I forget how much it is, into the Geo Bond 22. I'll only transfer enough money out of REIT 1 to make the bond payment, but at that point, we will be using REIT 1.
Okay, one of my concerns as we were moving forward on this issue was that we really don't have a plan to explain to the public if we were gonna go to a vote. We need to have something to explain what the public is voting on. Okay, we did not do that. The public did not get a vote, but councilmatically, we approved it. But do we have a plan that the public can go to and look at? And the plan is, you know, we're gonna spend X here and, I don't know, gonna buy furniture, we're gonna put in thermal pane windows, which we don't have now. Is there some kind of a plan in place, or are we still operating off of a concept of upgrading the existing courthouse?
So I'd say we have more than a concept, but we don't have a specific plan, like, here's how much the windows are gonna cost.
Yeah, I mean, I just use that as an
We don't have that finite
example.
detail yet. But we are in the process, as you know, of doing the design work. The contractor that we've hired is currently meeting with all stakeholders, ensuring that what we design will meet the stakeholders' needs. So they've met with the courts, the clerk, the prosecutor's office, public defense, pretrial services. I'm probably missing someone, but they've met with the partners, and they're in the process of doing that exact thing, the design of what the buildings will look like and what the best use of the space will be.
So we're just not to a completed plan yet.
That's
We're
right.
moving from concept into a plan
But
right
we're
now.
beyond the concept, and we do have, and I'm gonna look toward Megan she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we do have a public-facing website that includes information about both the atrium and this project. So we do have information where the public can go and look at the details to date about the project, and that is being updated regularly.
Okay, so, are you aware of a resolution, maybe it was submitted by Mr. Pettit one time, about 2012, the county commissioners did a resolution that said REIT funds can't be used to pay off bonds? Are you familiar
No,
with that?
there is no such resolution.
There's nothing.
We use REIT 1
Okay,
and REIT 2 to pay bonds at this time.
This is not the first time.
This
Okay.
is not new.
and as we move forward with this, are there gonna be other monies besides that bond sale stuff? Is that what's going in here? Or could we use something else if we get it?
We could use something else. For example, we have applied for grants related to this project. We've not been successful
Okay, and that
yet.
could be the
But that
holding location.
would not go into the holding fund. The only money that will go into the holding fund is the bond proceeds. That is by
Okay.
law.
And that's B? B
That
is the
is
holding
item
fund?
B.
Okay,
Yep. So if we do get grant money in, we will deposit it into one of our construction funds. Or any other funding that should come.
what other possible uses are going to be out of these two funds? Is it a variety of uses, or is it dedicated strictly to?
These two funds are dedicated strictly to this bond issue. The Geo Bond 22 fund will only be used to make payments on these bonds. That's it. That's the only thing. The debt holding fund will only be used to pull in the proceeds, and that will be how we account for this money. Because we are legally required under IRS rules and other federal rules to account for the bond proceeds in a way that ensures that they remain non-taxable bonds for the benefit of the people who buy them.
I guess, and this discussion kind of leads me to why these are on the consent calendar instead of, I don't know, I always think of the consent calendar as kind of getting things through versus having these kind of discussions so the public knows kind of what we're doing and who supports what. You know, I don't know where I'm at exactly, but it sounds like I'm probably in favor of one of creating this, but I'm maybe not in favor of C or something. So why is it?
Were you requesting to have this a department item?
Yes.
We can certainly do that. With the reason that they're on consent is whenever we create new funds, they are on your consent agenda. But we can certainly move it if you would like that.
It's an administrative action to create a fund. It's just to create the number.
I'm trying to
It's
remain
20-40.
consistent
So,
in my
but
position.
again,
I guess that's what I'm
if your
doing.
request is to move those items out of the consent agenda, certainly we can accommodate that. I mean, if that is your
Probably, yeah,
intent.
I guess I am asking that, and then, so I don't have to be redundant and repeat my arguments, I'll probably refer to this morning session if anybody's curious what's going on here. Okay, so could we do that? Is that okay? I'll put it on. Sure.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you want to exercise your.
Well, yeah, I know, I'm kind of,
So
okay.
we're moving B and C to a regular agenda.
Thank you.
Is that, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole, okay, so now item D.
I do have questions
Oh,
on this.
sorry. Go ahead, sir.
I have three questions kind of related to Commissioner Edwards' points. So on we don't have a nailed down configuration scheme yet because we hired consultants to do that and design. But we do have, I remember from the courthouse process, a detailed assessment of all of the upgrade, like the kind of infrastructure upgrade needs that these buildings had, irrespective of the reconfiguration.
Right, we have the main study from a few years ago that says this building needs a roof, that building needs an HVAC.
Right, so
Yes.
we can show
We
the
absolutely
public
have
exactly
that.
the kinds of things that would be going into the various, pieces of the project. Second, I wanted to ask, how many times has Thurston County gone to voters for a general obligation bond issue? That didn't-
Never.
Okay. And third, I wanted to ask about REIT 1, and you alluded to a couple things, but my larger question is, what is REIT 1? If we weren't using it on this, what kinds of things does REIT 1 get spent on?
So REIT 1 can be spent on any county-owned facility. So the other things that I might be talking to you about for REIT 1 is expansion of the jail.
Hold on.
Uh,
The jail would benefit people in the urban area, not just people in the unincorporated county.
True.
So what is that different than what Commissioner Edwards' concern is about using REIT 1? And what's the next thing?
Well, I might be talking to you about upgrades to our public health building.
Okay, well, that's something that benefits people in the urban areas.
True.
Okay, so I guess I'm looking at Commissioner Edwards. What is the distinction here that you think there's a concern about? If we would be using it, we're not using it on this, we're using it on the jail, public health building, all sorts of things that are the operations of county government benefiting both folks in the unincorporated county and the urban area.
Yes.
Even though the tax source is coming from sales in the unincorporated area. So
Yes.
I've never heard you object to any other use of REIT 1 on that basis, but you're picking this one out.
No, what I'm objecting to is that we're only collecting from about half of the population is gonna foot the bill for the total population. That's my
But
concern.
that's true if it's used for a jail or a public health building.
So if I may interject,
okay.
it would not be half the population is not paying for this. A very limited number of transactions, and it'll take me a minute to find, but it's only, I wanna say like 14,000.
Yeah, it's the citizens or the residents and the unincorporateds of the county are not burdened by this tax.
Of the
Yeah,
unincorporated?
they're not burdened by this tax. This is a fee associated with a real estate transaction.
Yes. Who pays that fee?
And the fee could be a developer outside of the county who builds many homes in the county. A fee can be paid by somebody who would like to move from Pierce County to Thurston County. They just purchase a home.
Okay.
So
In
there is
unincorporated.
in unincorporated, so there is not a broad taxation. REIT is not a broad taxation to residents of unincorporated Thurston County. It's specific to real estate transactions.
Yes,
So
yes, all real estate transactions, right?
In 2021, there were 12,717 transactions that paid into REIT 1 and REIT 2 for total revenue of approximately $10 million, over $10 million. But it was not if you think about Thurston County's population of 300,000, it wasn't 150 citizens paying into the REIT fund.
I guess,
Unincorporated.
but, so there were 12,000 sales that were in the unincorporated area that put into the fund.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the 12,000 sales that took place in Yelm and Tenino and Olympia and
We
Lacey?
have no idea how many sales
Well, no,
were
but
made in those areas.
if this was, this seems to me, the users are not paying, the total users. Just those users that live in the unincorporated area, those transactions develop that dollar amount. And we miss out on transactions that took place in all those municipal areas, but yet those municipalities are direct recipients of the use of the courthouse proper. So that's my objection, that it's not fairly distributed to all the citizens of Thurston County. It's only distributed to the unincorporated areas, which is those
So-
12,000,
So here's the nexus, if you will,
okay?
between the payees, the payment source of the funds, and the use of the funds. And the nexus is development. The REIT transactions, document recording fees, for real estate transactions, it may be the purchase of property, it may be the building of the house, it might be when I bought my house, I paid in a REIT. It may be any of those transactions, but it's all related to development. And the use of the funds, then, both REIT 1 and REIT 2 are all about development. It's development of the property, it's maintenance of not maintenance, but the construction related, the big maintenance projects for buildings. REIT 2, it's sidewalks, energy improvements, sewer, water. It's all related to the development of the county as a whole. And the boundaries for, where we collect the money versus the cities, the incorporated cities, that's just a function of jurisdiction. But really, the money is all about development, which is why there are restrictions around REIT. It's a restricted fund. The stakeholders, if you will, about how that fund is used are builders and construction industry, and those are the people that show up in the legislature whenever we try to loosen the restrictions around REIT. But it's all related to construction, that's the nexus. It's not about who uses the buildings.
Okay, but just to carry that out further, if I sell my house in rural Thurston County or the urban growth area, I guess, anywhere in Thurston County, I sell my house, it's an old house, no construction involved in it, but isn't there assessed a real estate excise tax on that sale that then goes to one of these 12,000 sales? So it's individuals. I'm not saying you're right. Development is a big piece of this. But that same type of development and sales of properties take place in the municipal area as well as the unincorporated area, but yet we're only taking that money from those 12,000 sales in the unincorporated area, and we're expending that money to benefit all the citizens of Thurston County. The other 150, I'm just looking at roughly 150,000 live in unincorporated, 150,000 live in the incorporated.
I just gotta jump in because this was my point, and you guys are actually debating a different topic, which is the state law that governs. I'm talking about the fact that state law says these are the things we can use it for, and so is it appropriate for Thurston County to follow the state law and say, this is your funding source, this is what you get to use it for, and we're using it for those things. County buildings, might be public health, might be the jail, might be this complex. That's what state law says we use that funding source for. If you don't like the fact that we're not getting a piece of the municipal real estate excise tax because they should contribute to county facilities, go to the state legislature and deal with that. But to object to our use of the funding source in accordance with state law is what I'm not understanding. And this is an objection you've made here, but if Robin came and said, I know you don't like the jail for a different reason, but if the public health building but let's say you wanted a new jail piece, would you say, nope, not gonna do that? Because Robin says this is the way you could pay for the jail that you want, Commissioner Edwards. Not gonna do it because that jail would benefit people in the urban area and they're not paying for that. Only people, you're not, I never heard you made an argument in any other context except this. And I know you don't agree to this project, so I feel like it's just another argument you're throwing out there but it's really not the core of your beef with this, because we would use this REIT one, if we're not using it for this, we'd be using it for things that fall exactly into the category that you're saying. Upgrade to the public health building, upgrade to the jail. That's what that funding source is for. If you don't like the structure of the funding source, that's a question for the legislature to change the law in REIT one.
I guess, other than the fact that I want everybody to pay, okay, we can go back to when we had the Plum Street issue. Okay, I disagreed with the location. But the voters were gonna have the final say on if that was gonna pass or not. Had that passed, all the citizens in Thurston County were gonna contribute towards the cost of that facility. And that's kind of where I'm going. I think a councilmatic vote, it comes back to that basically, is not fair to all the citizens because only the unincorporated sales of these 12,000 sales are generating funds to go towards that use, which
what would you spend REIT one on?
Well, I'm not saying I wouldn't spend, I think it's okay in that regard. I'm trying to get everybody to participate. I'm trying not to have
Even though
any
never in the
freeloaders.
history of Thurston County has a bond issue for a project gone to the voters without a tax increase needed or.
Well,
I asked that question and Robinson never has.
I guess they've went to the voters before and the voters have turned it down.
We've not gone to the voters for general obligation bonds.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know
What you
definition.
agree is increase on the levy
There's always a tax increase associated with those.
That's different.
Yeah.
It's increases on the levy lift.
I'm not so interested in the title, I'm interested in the fairness of should everybody be paying? That's kind of my objection. Should everybody be paying? Or should just citizens in the unincorporated area be utilizing their resources to accomplish this mission? I'm not saying the mission isn't a decent mission.
The jail that we have, was that paid with REIT, one of the REIT sources?
It is being partially paid with REIT. It's mainly being paid from detention sales
Sales
tax.
tax, which is 10%, isn't it?
County manager.
1/10 of 10%.
1/10,
And
1%.
is that, that's,
That's countywide.
And that's countywide. All the participants that are paying for that live in Thurston County. 300,000 of them are paying for that jail. I don't like the idea of 150,000 people paying the bill for 300,000 people.
Not 150,000 paying. It is 12,700.
many of whom will probably
Yeah,
live out of state.
Approximately.
Yeah, that's very
13,000.
possible. They could be living anywhere.
And
They
the
might be buying a
biggest
bed and breakfast
payments-
home to rent out. I don't know.
Biggest payments we get are from developers.
So, and that's
Those
the
are the
thing,
big
if,
ones.
if, I mean, if the principle of, the real estate excise tax, the main focus, is to fund operations of county facilities.
Yep.
In county facilities, by state law, needs to be housed in the county seat.
Yep.
And you have a legal opinion in your email
Yep.
related to that.
I just read that.
So you could move a facility, county facility outside of the county seat to address your concerns. But I think it will be fruitful to clear the 150,000 residents of the unincorporated county do not pay on their real estate excise tax one. They do not. And again, I'd like to emphasize that it's a real estate transaction in the unincorporated of the county. So it's not a broad taxation to the residents of the county.
It's only to half the residents.
Not even.
No.
Well, if everybody in the county sold their house and moved up, it'd be half the residents. Regardless, I mean, it's a philosophical situation, I think, that we're in about fairness, from my perspective.
That's a state law issue.
Well,
You can't just say, you can't, I mean, the logical extension of your argument is, we're gonna get $10 million from a year from REIT one, but we're just gonna hold it in a fund. We're not gonna spend it, because it wouldn't be fair to spend it on any of the county facilities that benefit all of the residents, because it's only coming from unincorporated. So the REIT one would just go 10 million, 20, 30, 40, 50. In 10 years, we'd have $100 million sitting there because you won't spend it because you think that spending it on a county facility is helping everyone. But the law says that this source comes in from the unincorporated. So your beef is with the structure of that state law, not our ability to, we have to spend that money on the purpose that's outlined in the law. I don't think we have a choice, right? We're not allowed by law to let funds build up and sit on the money and not expend them.
Well,
Or,
to
Or
an
just-
extent.
okay, but just on a practical
but
basis,
no,
even if we're not,
you
even
really
if,
should not.
even if
should
we're
not.
not legally barred, that's not gonna be appropriate to the citizens.
It would not be
To
appropriate
say, I have a
whatsoever to sit
philosophical,
on the money.
I have a philosophical problem with the state law that says a source is coming in from the unincorporated that I'm only allowed to spend on something that benefits the whole county. So because of my philosophical objection to the way that law is written, I'm not gonna spend the $10 million a year coming in. That would be absurd, but that's kind of what you're arguing, right?
Can we move on?
okay,
Commissioners?
just, can I make one more point, please? In 2017, we, the county board of the day, in 17, went to the legislature and asked for authority to expand
The levy.
the levy
Payout.
lift
Payout.
for 25 years. The only county in Thurston County, or in the state of, the only county in the state of Washington that was granted that authority, because we're here with the state capitol and all the issues around that. We went to them and said, can we have the authority to do the levy lift for 25 years instead of 9 years, I think, is that that's what it was,
From 9 to 20.
so that we could build a complex and take care of this. Well, that was the Plum Street issue. It all boiled down eventually to a Plum Street issue.
Not
Which-
exactly, because I asked you, I said, if Hutch and I moved it from Plum Street to here, would you support it? And you said, no, I'd wanna do a public-private, you backed out.
Would I support it? Would I support the concept of going to the voters? If we had a real plan,
Yeah.
which we don't have, we never had a real plan. We had a pretty good concept, we had some things laid out. We weeded it down
I don't know how
from
much more of a plan we could have
7
had.
locations to the Plum
We
Street.
had the building design,
Oh, yeah, but the Plum Street thing, I mean, we could get into sea level rising, the homeless problem, we could go on for a long time here on that issue. So, but we did try to do something that was fair to all parties in Thurston County. Everybody was gonna pay if we built that new $300 million courthouse, or whatever it was. Yeah, granted, I didn't like the location, so I opposed it, but it was still gonna go on the ballot, and the voters were gonna get the final say.
But that's the opposite side, we still have REIT one coming in, and we have to do something with it, and it has to be related to county facilities, so where do we spend that money?
So
This
that-
is the
So
logical
the
part.
point there, though, is that everybody would have paid more. And in this scenario, nobody's paying more than they would have otherwise. There is no tax or fee increase in the
It's just that we're taking
plan
it from
that we
other
have.
projects, we're taking it
and
from
that
other
is part of
projects
the
to do this project. That's all. We're changing priorities. And
But the
That's-
priority we would be choosing would still fit into the category of benefiting the whole county, including the urban residents,
Okay, let's
and
move.
supported by the urban.
Okay.
I know we can go
More-
on
more to
for
come.
like hours on this topic, but let's
So
go ahead and,
Madam Chair, so the two items, 3A, 3B, and 3C will be a department item.
they will be
Okay.
department items.
Thank you.
They will not be on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Moving on with item 3D from the Sheriff's Office and 3E, transfer of retired K-9 Dexter to Deputy Nault, and item E, transfer of retired K-9 Jax to Deputy Bagley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of County Commissioners need to take an action on those two requests in the sort of speak transaction of those two dogs. K-9 officers will be $1 each, and that is the agreement.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Mentor?
No.
Item F, Human Resources, approve the collective bargaining agreement between Thurston County and the Thurston County Captains Association.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your consideration, Commissioners. This is to take an action to approve the collective bargaining unit with the Thurston County Captains Association. You had an executive session last Tuesday where staff gave you the details of that contract. So, and this is the action the staff is asking the board to take.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Mentor?
No.
Okay, item G, from Public Health and Social Services, a resolution increasing the full-time, that word always gets me.
Lacey?
Equivalency and reclassifying position 40R01606 in the Thurston County Pay and Classification Pay Plan.
Yeah, last week you reviewed this item, Commissioners, for your considerations to reclassify a half-time, a vacant position, which is a community nurse to one full-time equivalent health nurse supervisor. The department has gone through the process in great discussion last week, and the reasons they have end date is because of the funding source is supposed to be ending by that time. There is an indication that perhaps this may continue, and if that is the case, we'll come back to the board to reassess the end date.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Covered it last week, pretty detailed.
Yeah, I asked my questions. No questions for me. Item H, appointment to the Historic Commission, and item I, appointment to the Historic Commission, and one is David Patrick, and the other is Rebecca Sanchez. No questions? Okay. Moving on to department items. Item 4A from Emergency Services, FEMA Public Assistance Grant Agreement, D22-255, funding for January 2022 flood response.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a similar agreement the board approved a couple of weeks ago related to an agreement with FEMA for us to submit reimbursement for cost and the past agreement for the flooding that occurred in this quality area back in 2020. This agreement is similar for you to consider, and if the board approves this agreement with FEMA, will allow us to submit reimbursement for the flood response that just occurred in January of 2022 of this year. This is great. Any type of agreements with FEMA requires a presidential disaster declaration, and that has occurred. This is subject to a 90% reimbursement and a 10% match, which out of the 10%, 5% will be covered from the state. Ben?
You hit all the high points. Again, I'd just like to reiterate, since you saw.
I hear you.
Are you able to hear me okay at this point?
Now we are. Can you start from the beginning, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just like to remind everybody that commissioners, that this is almost identical to the agreement that we did for January 2020 floods. This is January 2022. I will also remind you that this is for public assistance. So this is for the government support that was issued out for sandbagging, for road signs, for a lot of public works, public health initiatives, all those pieces would be reimbursable for this. Public assistance has a little bit of a misnomer because it refers to public support in terms of the government entities. And this did not meet the threshold for what's called individual assistance. And so there are different mechanisms that have been made available to a variety of stakeholders as they filled out the disaster survey that we sent out throughout the flooding and following up. So there's been support on an individual level. It's just not raised to the level of individual assistance. And so I'll remind you that this is for public assistance and virtually identical to the agreement for January 2020. This is just January 2022.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Does this also cover, because I see it expires in 2026, so does it cover potential floods that are going to happen in the future that we expend money on?
No, this is specific to a time period that's from December 26, 2021 to January 15th, 2022. They just give us an extended time period to submit the amendments because some of the projects that may need to be done, such as the flood in 2022, we had a disaster declaration due to landslides. And so it takes an extended period of time to finish up roadway repair, to do assessments and things of that nature, but it's specific to the January 2022 flood.
Thank you. That explains it.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer?
No questions for me. Thank you. Next, moving on to Public Health and Social Services. Item 5A, approval of amendment number 6 to the Washington State Department of Health 2022 to 2024 consolidated contract.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board may recall that early in the year, I believe January 2022, the board approved the consolidated contract, also known as the CONCON agreement with the State of Washington Department of Health. That created the umbrella as to how we're going to be receiving funds related to the functions in public health and social services. Also, the board has approved already 5 amendments. And this, for your consideration, is yet another amendment, amendment number 6, for the amount of $2,645,000. So the current agreement will go up to $11,993,056. As Madam Chair stated, the performance of this contract is from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024. This has particular activities that will be related to foundational public health, and those activities will be covered by this additional amendment, which includes assessment of hepatitis, just to give an example, case investigation capacity. It has toxicology and environmental epidemiology, system-wide management systems, child health review, and workforce capacity. Kurt is currently out of the office. If you have any questions, certainly I can take those. If I cannot answer, I will make sure that I will address those this afternoon. But you review this item.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No question. I have a hard time questioning getting money.
Commissioner Munster? Okay,
And I will cover this item since Kurt's out there.
okay. Next, Public Works, item 6A, approve Quality Controls Corporation as single source SCADA integrator and equipment provider for solid waste pumps, upgrade and improvements project.
You also reviewed this item last week, Commissioners, and for your considerations to approve the sole source with Quality Control Corporation, which is provide the services to the SCADA system. And the system itself, as the board has approved in the past, is a consolidated system that will allow us to manage the data related to the many different aspects of utilities. In this case, it is specifically related to the pumps that we have at the Waste and Recovery Center. And this, for your consideration, is an amount not to exceed $100,000. As the process goes, anytime that we request the board to consider a sole source, the internal county auditor has to go through the process to determine the fact that meets the requirements, and the internal auditor has signed in supporting this request. And Rick is here to answer any additional questions.
Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
The funding source.
This is coming from the tipping fees.
Thank you.
Commissioner Munster? No, okay. Thank you. Item B, master interlocal agreement with Mason County for transportation services.
And you also reviewed this item last week. There's a cooperative agreement with Mason County. The last cooperative agreement that we had was in 2017, and this will give us the opportunity to continue the collaboration with Mason County. And that includes many different strategies: pavement, striping, pothole patching, guardrail repairs, etc. And this allows us to promptly respond to the needs both in Mason County and Thurston County by having this agreement without having to go through a contract every time. You also heard last week from staff that we have similar agreements with the cities here in the county, where mainly the county is providing the striping services with the city of Olympia, as well as the city of Tumwater. And this is under a similar umbrella agreement of a cooperating agreement that we have. It's a good agreement and a good cooperation among the nearby jurisdictions. Matt's not here, but Becky's here to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions. It's a good mutual aid agreement.
Commissioner Munster? And I asked my questions last week on this matter. Okay, item C, set a public hearing to consider revising speed limit schedule for the various county roads.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. You receive a briefing from Public Works related to request to consider changing the speeds on 8 segments of county roadways. There is along 93rd, 199 Case Road, Fish Trap Loop Northeast, the Houston Drive, the Recluse Road Southeast in Yelm, the Tyrell Road, and the Waterbay Road as well. And each one of those has a different proposals to change the speed limits from the current to something different. The next step in the process for you to consider public testimony, and this request is for you to set a public hearing for October 4, 2022. At that point, the board has the ample latitude to take legislative actions to approve all those requests, to approve some, or to deny all the requests. So that's really the latitude the board has, because in this case, you are not bound or not requested for you to take an action holistically on the segment. So you have plenty of latitude as you have exercised that legislative decision and passed speed limit revisions.
38 miles per hour.
Becky's here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Munster, any questions? Okay, no questions for me. After that, it will be our standing items. And at 3:30, we have 2 public hearings. I will be pausing our regular agenda to move to the public hearings at 3:30, and then after that, we'll pick it up.
with whatever we have left.
And Madam Chair, we have a single Zoom.
Perfect.
So that should not be an issue.
I will announce it at the very beginning. So our first public hearing is from Community Planning and Economic Development, and it's a 2022 Open Space Tax Program applicant.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The board received a briefing related to a request for an open space. And in this particular open space, it calls the George application. And that includes open space that has significant wildlife habitat area and resource enhancement. This is just about a 12.12 acres that will be under this open space out of the 13.2 acres the property currently has. It has a 50% reduction of the market value. We had a great conversation last week related to the tax reductions this property owner will have, and also we had a conversation that the county does not get a reduced property tax because the tax reduction is distributed to the tax district. And I believe Commissioner Edwards asked the question, give us an indication what the amount of this property tax break will be. And I believe staff is ready to answer that, if I may.
Sure. Sorry, couldn't get off mute. Christina Chapeau, Community Planning Manager. We talked to the assessor's office to determine if we were able to get an actual dollar amount. Unfortunately, because of the way taxes are calculated, they are calculated in future years. So to get that particular information actually can't be done. What we did was get information as if the applicant had been approved and was in the open space tax program this year. So it's only for, it's an approximation and it's just for this year. So it's a number. So if the particular property owner was approved and in the classification this year with the 50% adjustment, they would have a property tax difference of about $440, but that's not necessarily annually, that's just for that one tax year, because we're talking about several different types of tax levy rates, like fire and school and county government. So each one has a different rate. Those rates change over the years, as well as the market changes over the years. So it could be 440, it could be more, but that's the number that would shift to about 3,000 tax parcels. So it is a very small amount of dollars that shift over the years. That makes sense?
Did I answer your question? I think you had that question.
Yes, it does answer the question.
14 cents, that's what I get.
It's not much. And should the party decide to change direction at some future time, they have to pay that back, and we end up getting more revenue, so to speak. Okay, that's all I was wondering about. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, ma'am.
Questions? Okay. Our second public hearing is from Public Works. It's public hearing for the 6-year transportation improvement program for the calendar years of 2023 through 2028.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back to the previous item, for your consideration is 2 actions on the open space. Is going to close the public hearing. And for your consideration, depending on the public testimony, is for you to consider and approving the application by you. We can always schedule a different date for that. For the second public hearing is you received a briefing from Public Works related to the proposed 2023-2028 transportation improvement program. As required by law, the Board of County Commissioners needs to hold a public hearing related to this particular program. And at this point, the only action that we'll be requesting for you is to close the public hearing. The formal action of the approval of the transportation improvement program is coincide with this on the same date in which the board may consider approving the budget itself, which is right now is scheduled for December 16, 2022.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Munster? Okay. That will conclude our agenda for August 30th. The review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for September 6th, that meeting is canceled for that day. We will be having a budget session that morning and Board of Health interviews that afternoon. So Commissioners, we will still be busy. Next, proclamations and awards, as well as advisory boards and commissions. And Jamie Caldwell, our clerk of the board.
Good morning, Jamie Caldwell, Clerk of the Board. In your packet, I've included the proclamation that's being presented this afternoon, as previously reviewed. Also included is a draft proclamation for Kiwanis Club of Olympia Day. This came as a request from the president of the Olympia Kiwanis Club. September 15th is the one-year anniversary of the formation of the Olympia chapter, and they're requesting that the board proclaim that day Kiwanis Club of Olympia Day. For boards and commissions, I have not received any new applications.
Before you move on this proclamation, I did respond to that email stating the usually the Board of County Commissioners doesn't entertain this type of proclamations. And because this, that would be one too many in a way. But out of respect, I was going to bring this matter for your attention, but I already responded to the requestor saying that the board usually doesn't consider proclamations specific for those events.
But it's at the chair's purview, right, to do a
Absolutely.
recognition?
That's what I'm bringing this to your attention.
So
Seems like it falls in the wrong category.
So I'm happy to do a recognition if that's okay with the rest of the board.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So if we can respond to the president of the association and let him know that we will be doing, not a formal proclamation, but we will be doing a recognition.
When you like.
And so September 15th is when they said, right?
So the next meeting is September 13th, so that will be probably on point.
Okay. So we'll do this on September 13th, and if you would like to let them know. Thank you.
As far as boards and commissions, I haven't received any new applications. I'm still waiting to hear back from the Agricultural Advisory Committee regarding the application for the non-farmer position that was received just a couple weeks ago. Outside of that, or outside of any questions, that's all I have.
Why does it say there's a planning commission opening? I don't think there is. You've got three.
You've got three.
You've got your three seated.
Yeah.
So I think that's a mistake.
I'll get that one removed.
Okay. Any questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Commissioner Munster? Okay, next is our PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. In response to Commissioner Edwards' question last week about numbers, I'm just going to give a few social media numbers for you. Since January 1st, we have published 754 posts on Facebook and have had 17,000 engagements, so likes, shares, comments. And then we have 13,588 followers with 846 being new as of the beginning of the year. On Twitter for this year, we've had 100,000 impressions, so likes, shares, comments, those types of things, with 7,378 followers. On YouTube, we have 859 subscribers. 113 of those are new this year, with 9,578 hours of watch time. So that's how many hours people have watched it this year. And then the Friday Five, we have 828 subscribers on that, and 50% of the people who receive the email open the email for the Friday Five. Pending any questions, that's what I have.
No question, thank you. On YouTube subscribers, like, you can watch a meeting, right, without being a subscriber?
Yes.
Okay, so if somebody subscribes, that just does what?
They get notifications if something is live or if we've posted a new video, yeah.
Okay, and then the 13,000, that was Facebook followers?
Facebook,
Is that like I mean, obviously there's new people coming in, but are we losing people or is it just always keep growing?
I would have to verify that with Brian. We'll have to look at last year's numbers.
Is that
Yeah.
high or is it, I mean, some people kind of go dormant probably and they're still counted. But I guess you could probably tell by the rate of new people jumping in.
Yeah, we do get a lot of engagement. People are very engaged on our Facebook page.
I'm sure.
Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Different ways.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, nothing for briefing, public hearing decisions pending. We have a couple of commissioners' items. It is 10:36. Let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break. You're live, Commissioner. Okay, it is 10:57 a.m. We are back from break. We left off with commissioners' items. The first one is security project.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an item that you discussed a little bit in a couple months ago when you were considering an amendment to increase the budget authority, some of the capital improvement programs. In this, it was related to the bidding process and how much we, based on the engineer's estimate that we had, and just the cost of construction is going up. And that was one of the decisions that were made not to include this particular project as part of the overall capital improvement amendment that you approved early in the year. So here we are, I think.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
What was the increase amount that we were, that basically had increased from the previous estimate to?
On this one?
Yes.
We'll walk you through the details of
Okay.
that in a minute. So additional information has come up that Robin would like to share with you and maybe introduce our new project manager. That would be great. So Robin?
Right, thank you, Romero. So I'm going to start off by introducing Rich King. And Rich, if you're there we go. Rich is our new capital project manager in Central Services, one of our new hires, and we are very happy to have Rich on board. Rich, maybe you'd like to say a little bit about yourself, just a few words?
Sure. You guys can hear me okay?
Uh-oh. Wait 1 second, we can't hear you.
There's a delay.
Go ahead.
There's a lag. Go ahead, try again.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my name is Richard King, new capital project manager. I've been working in construction since I was 18 years old. I started out as a laborer, worked my way up to being a superintendent to being a project manager. So this is my next position is capital project manager here. I'm really happy to get started on some new exciting opportunities with the county. So, and I'm learning the process, which seems a little longer than I'm used to. So
Government's
it's
a
been
little
fun so
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, government's just a little different than the private industry, but we're very happy to have Rich on board. So I'm gonna give you just a little bit of background about the security project, and then I'll be making a request for your consideration. You'll see in the materials, one of the items that I included was the briefing that we did for the board back in August of 2020. And if you look at slide 3, and that's on page 2 of the PowerPoint, you'll see that this project actually started in 2015. So we've been working, it's part of this packet, Commissioner. Part of your
But maybe I don't have it.
materials
Maybe it's
today.
in the back. Oh, here we go.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
And I flipped to the PowerPoint. So we started this project in 2015 with a security study on all of our county buildings. In 2017, we started phase 1 of the security upgrades, and we completed upgrades in buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4 here on the campus. And we did things like, that's when we added key cards on the doors. We upgraded our duress and paging systems. We installed cameras around the county. And there are no cameras in building 1 or 4, however, we put them in the courts. So that was phase 1 of the project. In 2020, we were partway through phase 2 of the project. Phase 2 completed certain upgrades at the public health building. Building 6 for public defense, they had to have their door access and cameras installed for the safety of public defense. And then we did the cameras at the FJC because their cameras were failing. In that time, that was August of 2020, we requested approval by the board to go forward with phase 3 of this project. And that's where we still are today. At the time, the board approved this proposed scope for phase 3, and we have updated materials now, and I'm gonna switch to this document on top that has courthouse security upgrades. By the way, this project had been being managed by Mariusz Kowalski, who has retired, and so Rich has picked up the project should we move forward. So you'll see the scope. The original estimates had been approximately $500,000 for this, but the original estimates were done in 2019. So fast forward to 2022, and the cost has approximately doubled.
How much you said, $500,000?
We have currently in the budget approximately $500,000 available for this project.
Based on 2019 estimates.
Based on 2019 estimates. And the new scope, and actually the approved scope for all of the projects, the new total estimate is just over $1 million. So it's pretty much doubled in price. My request in the capital budget amendment was, I'd have to look back, but I believe it was approximately $600,000 to get us through the whole contract, the entire project. And we've broken it down so that you can see exactly what the proposal is by each building. So in the coroner's office, we'd be adding certain improvements to garage doors and motion detectors inside the garage, duress buttons, lockdown buttons should something occur, and there are broken locks in the building that we would replace. At the Emergency Services Center, and that's TCOM 911, and Commissioner Edwards, you've heard about this from Wendy, their cameras are failing. And they have asked for their cameras to be repaired. And TCOM 911, if we should move forward with this project, is willing to put $40,000 towards the project at this point in time. Building 5 is all about locks and access and duress buttons, and some of the cameras need to be replaced. In building 6, doors and cameras, and as you go through this, most of the buildings, this project is all about secure doors, cameras, locks, and ensuring that the people who work in the buildings are safe. And so just the fairgrounds is mainly cameras. Family and juvenile court, we already replaced their cameras, so we need to do the alarms and the locks and the doors. A public health building, they are needing improvements to the doors and duress buttons and a lockdown button. And then you see the various buildings finally at the Tilley campus. These are in priority order. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. But my request to you is to approve the first 3 items for me to go ahead and go forward again for this year with the money that's existing in the budget. The $500,000 that I currently have in the budget would more than cover these first 3 items, leave some money left over. The coroner's office is in a remote area, and there are people in that building 24/7. Usually very few staff in the building at any given time, and we are concerned about their safety at night. The Emergency Services Center, Wendy says that they are experiencing some vandalism, I believe. But there have been a few concerning incidents for the staff who go in and out of the building at night. Again, it's a 24/7 facility. And then in the courthouse building 5, that is an elections center. And you have heard from our auditor about security around elections and how critical that is. So I am adding that to the list. The rest of the projects will be part of the midterm budget amendment, so I would ask that you reconsider them at that time. But I am asking to move forward with the top 3.
Commissioner Edwards.
What funding source are we talking about?
This is REIT 1.
This is, we won't get into it. Not gonna say it. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Menzer.
So, as a former public defender, I know from evidence that I get from the prosecutor's office that cameras there's all sorts of different systems and how they work and how long they retain and how easy they are to access and accurate and reliable. Are all the camera systems that we're talking about kind of the same? Are they uniquely tailored to each building? Are they the kind, you get a convenience store, they're like 72-hour cycle and they're real choppy. There's other ones that are really good quality and you get, like at Walmart, they got really nice cameras and you get good footage. So I'm asking that, and then kind of related to that, how often do these cameras, I need specific examples of how these cameras have foiled a crime, saved the county money, actually accomplished something.
Okay, so I'm going to start the answer and then I'm going to turn it over to Rich, and Jason might want to chime in. I'm going to start by saying that around the county, camera systems have been installed willy-nilly, if you will. And we have numerous different systems. And part of this project had been to normalize the camera system and get us all on a single system. That makes the maintenance way easier, and it makes the operation and reliability of the cameras much easier. Now, as to the quality of the cameras, I'm gonna turn to Rich and Jason. Can either of you tell us anything about that?
HD.
Here's Jason.
Good morning. I wasn't planning to speak on this, but I know some about it. I'm coming back from vacation, so I'll catch up. Yes, on the quality of the cameras, the camera system we've installed at the courthouse, we can actually pick out license plate numbers and whatnot, depending on the distance from the camera. So same with individuals, we've been able to use it to identify, or for the law enforcement to identify individuals. So the quality is at the higher end. It's not the top of the line because of cost reasons, and we've tried to meet everyone's requirements, but all of our camera systems are fairly high quality, especially compared to what we've had in the past. TCOM, 911, their cameras are 20 plus years old, and that system you can't see very much at all. It's very blurry and pixelated.
And then it's really, for me, it's also not just about the quality of the picture, but the system, like how does it work? Like how much is stored? How easy is it we hear about something that happened out in the parking lot. How easy is it for law enforcement or staff to access the footage? And is there a good software program that makes it, user friendly so you can actually find what you need without spending hours of wading through different camera angles? And, is it a good system that is user friendly?
Yes, it is. The system we've installed at the courthouse, as Robin spoke about, is a VivoTech system, and it's very user friendly. Especially if we kind of know what time the incident happened. The policy is to go through Romero to get approval to pull the footage, and we can usually pull footage in just a matter of minutes.
How far back can you go? Like, how long is it storing before it like recycles or however that works?
So the courts have certain specifications we have to follow. I'm not sure at the top of my head. I believe we have to keep this court footage for 14 days, I believe it is. In the corrections facilities like FJC and whatnot, we keep it, I believe, for 30 days. So, and we can extend that, but the reason we have it at 14 days is it seems to be meeting all the court requirements. And the more storage we have, the bigger server we have to have also.
And I receive almost weekly requests for releasing video footage. What happened last week, absolutely, that was an emergency, so that's on the way. And I get requests from.
What happened last week?
A car was broken into. Here in the parking lot.
And we got it on camera?
It was Wayne's car. Yeah, Wayne's
And it's on camera?
Well, we're trying to find out. Yeah, so, but,
Okay, well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, do we have a system that actually works?
well, the question is whether the camera would capture that angle. I mean, that's the question. If the camera captured the angle, obviously we got it.
Right. So one of the things that you've recently heard about are break-ins of cars in our employee parking lot. We have no cameras there. And if the board is interested, I'd be happy to get some estimates on installing cameras, and we can certainly make it part of the courthouse project to make sure that there's cameras in the employee lots. But right now, we don't have cameras in our parking lots.
I think that is, for me, you know, being an employee of the county and then, you know, once it's winter time and you're having to walk all the way over here, and if you had to stay either later or you had to come earlier and you're walking on your own all the way over there, like it was concerning. And I know there were at times several break-ins that happened, or sometimes I remember there were leaf blowers that, like, you know, damaged cars, and there was really no recourse. You couldn't, you know. So, I mean, I would be in support of having cameras in the employee parking lot just for security matters. And
I thought we were moving to the other location.
Well,
And then
there's
it's
still
even
some-
gonna
there's
be
still
worse.
gonna-
There's still some employees will be
the
here.
courts.
Yeah, but won't they be able to be more condensed parking or something?
But I think what I just suggest as part of the overall courthouse project to incorporate security systems as part
Yes.
of that. And I think that's what I think is.
We have talked about the possibility of cameras in the lots at the atrium.
Okay, like, I don't know, sometime back, somebody jacked up a car to steal a catalytic converter. Did we get that? Did that solve a crime? What came of that particular situation? I guess an employee went out to get in the car and the car's jacked up. Or went clunk when they drove off the jack. I don't really know. I mean, I like to see those cases where they're just the feet poking out, you know,
Well, I
it's
don't
all
know.
said and done.
So again, no cameras or very little camera in the parking lots. So, you know, that would be hard. I mean, possibly we captured one, but
In this particular case, last week, I just happened to walk with Wayne when he was going through his car. And it was two staff from the prosecutor's office who witnessed that. And they chased the perpetrator to the point of they retrieved the bag that he took from Wayne's car.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Did they give him some justice at the same time?
Well, they couldn't implement justice at the same time. But, you know, I think it was pretty evident because this individual is known within the system. They were able to highlight the name. So Olympia Police was on site taking the notes. And we're in the process of releasing that video footage to Olympia Police.
Well, I just heard 3 or 4 crimes discussed, and none of which where the camera resulted in an arrest or a stop. I mean,
this one just about might.
but that's not because of the camera, it's because he was chased down by real people that saw him.
But to me is, when I authorize release of video footage, I don't have a way to follow up what the next steps are. there's no way for me to go through the process, whether.
You
law
have to do
enforcement-
this?
That's the process, because anybody,
The county manager has to sit there and watch this
So-
and figure
No,
it
no,
out.
no, 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 no.
Authorizes
The county
the-
manager doesn't watch the video footage.
Well, I don't even want you involved in
The
it.
county manager doesn't have the time.
That's what
But
I
the
was
point is,
thinking.
to answer your question, there's no way that I have a system to, when we release a footage, because there's many requests from many sources.
I was looking for anecdotal evidence.
So what types of requests do you get, Romero?
I
For
get
what?
requests from the courts, from some of the prosecutors, from public defenders. I get requests from individuals who have been through the prosecutor's office on the hallways outside. And as you may recall, when ICE was here, we had video footage of that. So all of those requests, the requests are all over, outside and inside. And they give me specific times and dates. And
But do we catch anybody? Do we solve anything? I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at.
And again, I don't have a way to say, just because we release a video footage to law enforcement, we don't have a way to follow up whether they catch somebody. That would be,
I mean,
that
even
would be too much
protecting
to ask of
our,
the county manager.
Well, we
Okay.
have our county prosecutor here.
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, sometimes it's not so much whether you catch them from the video, it's whether they get caught and then the video becomes a piece of evidence that, ties that person. My motorcycle got dumped over at the Chandler facility a couple years ago. Somebody just took my motorcycle and, dumped it over. It wasn't, damaged terribly or anything, so I didn't pursue it, but the video did show us the people walking by and dumping it over and so forth. But we couldn't identify anybody because, their faces weren't known to anybody. And, so nobody recognized who they were. We suspect they lived over in the apartments because they came walking out of that apartment complex that's by Chandler. So it's not really about whether you solve it from a video, in my perspective. I think it's, if you solve it, the video can be helpful. That's
Okay,
what I would say.
just as a follow-up maybe to that, when it comes to safety of employees, I want that to be paramount, safety of employees. But does a camera really do that? I mean, if is lighting that much better? I don't know, we can get a license plate number from certain angles, maybe of cars driving in, going out. But do we really prevent somebody from, I don't know, being assaulted or something like that? I mean, we're not monitoring them, so the camera might get something on camera that somebody came up and whacked somebody with a stick. Okay, you got that, but what comes from that, I guess, do we have a system that's gonna solve that particular crime? Is it gonna help that person? I think that's what we're up against, more than just putting them out. I mean, maybe if we had motion detectors, and on the top of the pole, hey, we see motion going on here and here's a light flashing. Maybe that would chase the perp away, from the situation. I'm just trying to make it work to where it's a benefit, not just the fact that we say we've got a camera, because most of these camera footages don't do a heck of a lot of good, even in banks and stuff. They're not that beneficial. I mean, all my years as a policeman, all those bank photos that we got, they really weren't much when they came right down to it.
It does serve as a deterrent.
Deterrent, maybe,
Whether we can protect from not just county employees, for anybody being assaulted, that may be too much of a higher call for the county to do so. Certainly what we can do, and I totally agree with my humble opinion from Madam Chair's suggestion that we should include a safety component as a result of this courthouse remodel. And it's not just video cams, any other measures that we can probably see.
I'm with Commissioner Edwards. I mean, we're just talking about what's the most, safety is paramount. We're just talking about what tool is the best bang, what tool is the best investment. If it's lighting and door locks more than cameras, then I'll spend the money on, door locks and lighting. I just not sure. I just wanted to ask, because the cameras are expensive and it's just, if nobody can even point to a single incident that's ever been solved by a camera, then we're spending $1 million and 2/3 of that's on cameras?
Could I jump in there on that? Just, would it be better if we spent that money on a court officer's overtime or something? And if that's what was needed, so that person could make a loop out in the parking lot, especially at night, especially when employees are feeling more vulnerable, which is usually at night, especially in the wintertime. So is there a way that we might think about something besides just putting a static piece of equipment up that really doesn't solve anything? I think I'd rather pay for an FTE to really walk out there with the employees, be in the parking lot. And it's gonna get, well, you guys think I'm prejudiced about it, but I am. The whole thing is gonna get worse when we go down to Pacific Avenue, I think, because we got some problems in that neighborhood. But anyway, where we could have maybe an FTE assigned to do X, Y, or Z. Would that be more of a preventive measure? I don't think Olympia PD drives through here at night much,
So I think with that scope, that's for the future. Right now, the proposal is to do the first 3 items. I mean, for me, the TCOM 911, since they're a separate entity in a way, and they're willing to put in the $40,000 towards their project, which it is for cameras, but that's what they've decided that they want.
That is what they need.
Then let's focus on those 3 items and see if we're wanting to move forward with them or not.
And more discussion later on the other
And
stuff.
more discussion later on the other stuff, just because of time. So the first one is from the coroner's office, and is that something that the commissioners would like to move forward with?
Yeah. I'm gonna take Robin's recommendation, basically.
Yeah, maybe.
We're kind of between a rock and a hard spot on this. I do want to put more thought into some of this stuff as we move forward, though. I don't want to fight about it here because I don't think we've got the solution here readily available, and we probably do need to fix these.
Well, with the coroner's office, there's no cameras in there. It's all magnetic doors.
Doors and alarms.
Yeah, so I think that's.
There is such a thing as a ring, which is a commercial product. It's some kind of a ring thing that, I don't know, it calls the phone, hey, you got somebody outside, I don't know what it does, but it does something like that.
The Ring doorbell, yeah.
Yeah, and it tells you if the UPS guy is there dropping off a package, or if it's a goofball, or whatever, so I hope we've explored all those type of options to deal with. Like the coroner's office, pretty isolated over there. Wouldn't that be nice if there was a notification that something's going on at 2 a.m? I don't know. Dark hours always seem to be the worst. I would hope that we've looked into that. I don't know if Jason's the one that wants to say yay or nay on that kind of stuff, but I don't know.
The first 3 buildings that you're proposing, that's like 180,000, right?
That's right.
Minus 40, I think, though, right?
So I'm not asking to spend the full $500,000 I have right now. I am
let's do
asking to go forward on the highest priority projects.
Okay, so then there's support for those 3 items moving forward. And then there'll be further discussion on the rest of the items. So the coroner's office, emergency service center, and courthouse building 5 will move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, and then more discussion later on a countywide security upgrades. I do have a lot of questions about the rest of the projects, but considering that.
That is part of the midterm budget.
So, next is a topic that I didn't think I would see for,
Sadly.
for a while, but I guess dangerous trees, and I know Commissioner Edwards will be out there with his chainsaw.
I would if I could. I went and looked at the last one. I think we got a good deal on the last one. I think Jason had it all figured out.
No, Commissioner, no chainsaws.
This is another different
So
one.
this is a tax title property, again, and we have been alerted that we have not just one dead tree that may be presenting an issue to nearby property owners. We have a row of trees that have died. So, and according to the arborist, they will not survive this upcoming winter. So the cost is in front of you, and I will ask Jason to walk us through the details.
Okay, cost and price.
Absolutely.
This.
I got it covered.
I want to see Commissioner Edwards' estimate. I want to see your estimate.
Jason, you're.
Good morning. Such a good job on the other deal, but.
So I received this call a while back and we went out and looked at it on 2 separate occasions. We've been out there with the arborist. As you can see in the pictures, this row of 13 trees, they are, I believe 11 of them are dead. There's ivy growing in them. It does appear that a few have fell previously, as you can see the stumps in the pictures. They did have one, I believe if you're following along on page 3 of 8, it shows, you can see in the left-hand side, some of the debris that fell this past winter, and it took out the power lines running to the property at the back. I did reach out to the adjacent property owners, and none of them are interested in purchasing this property, especially.
He's been proactive, by the way.
They did, there was some interest possibly if the trees were removed. They might be interested in purchasing it. But they are, as you can tell in the pictures, they're all not alive and danger of falling at any time.
That's just a row.
So is the wood worthless? I mean, can you
Yes.
cut the trees and it's
Worthless. It is worthless.
so you can't sell the wood?
Not even firewood.
So,
Am I right, Jason?
Yeah, I would agree with you. This type would be used for firewood, and with it being dead,
Yeah.
especially once you get up in the tree about 40 foot, it's pretty brittle, or appears to be brittle. I didn't climb them, but it does appear to be brittle, and it probably just break apart if they tried to use it for firewood.
Theoretically, if these trees weren't dead, would we be allowed to cut them, sell the wood, and defray our costs for cutting them?
I
Or is
think
there
it
some
could
reason we
be, it
can't?
could be a possibility, depending on the contractor. We can work within the contract, whether we can get some revenue related to selling the wood.
Because that's never come up in previous
So,
discussions.
Well, it wouldn't, it'd be such a minimal amount compared to the price that it wouldn't be
yeah.
really, I mean,
So what we're paying mainly is the labor and the disposal of the material. Whether we can get some revenue as a result of that, probably no.
it's not worth anything.
So we have one estimate, just to be able to give you a ballpark of the cost. This estimate is a little over $42,000 to remove these trees. It has to be paid out of general fund. And because of the amount, we would have to see if we could get any other bids, if you will, to be in accordance with our.
What about Puget Power? Anybody talk to Puget Power? Because they must own those power lines.
about
They,
getting,
Puget Power has a crew, that's all they do. They
take
go
out
out
trees?
And they take trees, hazard trees that are hazard to their lines.
I would be happy to have Jason call Puget Drive.
You talked to anybody from Puget Power?
I did not talk to PSC.
Oh, yeah, they do this
I can
all
make
the
a
time.
phone call though and reach out to them.
You
Right.
better tell them their lines are coming down this winter. Really, I mean it.
Yeah, see if they work with us to take them out and what that would cost. But we are basically seeking the board's approval to move forward to remove these.
I'm not ready to move forward until I hear from Puget Power, because I really think they will take them down. They have a whole crew, that's all they do.
Yeah, I can make that phone call this afternoon.
Okay.
And then by moving forward, you mean getting another bid?
We have to have three, we have to make an attempt to get 3 bids.
I would agree that if Commissioner Edwards' idea doesn't pan out for whatever reason, that we go ahead and get other bids.
Oh, for sure,
Up to that point,
for sure.
I'm in agreement with that.
and then we can see where we're at that point.
All right, good.
So maybe we can get an update from Jason via email, just saying,
Here's what he found.
what he found, and then, I think if it doesn't result in, you know, what we're hoping, then we can bid out for others, but if it does, then yay for us. Are you okay with that, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes.
Okay,
All right,
okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
so next, how long is the executive session?
I think it's probably, you think 30 minutes, you think, 15?
Okay. Is there any emergency commissioner items that commissioners need to discuss? Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Mentor.
Real quick, I got one. Board of Health training. Our Board of Health members can be reimbursed for expenses.
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez paid for her own flight there.
Yeah.
I told her that,
Absolutely.
but I was certain that we would be able to
We
get.
will
Yeah,
Can you
absolutely
can somebody
reimburse.
reach out to her and let her know
Yeah,
the process?
Absolutely.
She
I
did
thought
not know.
we already addressed that, but I'll
I
reach
talked to her Friday evening. She had purchased her own ticket and had no idea that she would be reimbursed for expenses, and I thought that would be
Absolutely.
automatic, so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Edwards, any emergency
I
issues?
no emergency, no. I can bring up this other discussion.
Okay. Okay, so with that, we will be going into executive session for 30 minutes. And it's per RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency, general obligation bonds litigation. Commissioner's action may follow.
Richard, you need to Commissioner Mintz are going to return for the ramp. I don't know if he needs to.
Okay, and we are back from executive session. It is 12:03. We were in executive session per RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency, general obligation bonds litigation. Commissioner actions may follow. No commissioner action follows this. It is 12:04 p.m. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, I thought we were talking.